At my birthday dinner, she laughed and said, "You're not exactly Instagram material, so don't expect any photos tonight." Everyone laughed, except me. But when the cake came out and she saw who brought it, the whole table went silent. I've been with Jenna for 4 years. To understand what happened last night, you need to understand the woman I thought I was dating versus the woman she became. When we met, she was incredible. Sharp, funny, driven, and had this warmth that made you feel like the only person in the room. We built a life together. I was the stable one, the quiet one. I have a good job that I'm proud of, one that allowed us to have a beautiful apartment and travel a little. She was the social one, the one with the vibrant circle of friends. In the beginning it worked. I grounded her, and she brought me out of my shell. Over the last 2 years, though, something shifted. Her 2 best friends, Ashley and Maya, became a constant presence. They are the kind of people who live their lives through a phone screen. Every brunch, every walk in the park, every single moment had to be curated, filtered, and posted for validation. Slowly, they started to change Jenna. The woman who once loved quiet nights in with a movie started talking about our brand as a couple. The woman who used to praise my work started making little comments about how it wasn't very glamorous. She became obsessed with appearances, with creating a life that looked perfect, even if it didn't always feel that way. I put up with it because I loved her. I saw glimpses of the old Jenna underneath the surface, and I kept hoping she would re-emerge. I supported her ventures, including the small online business she ran with Ashley and Maya, a boutique that sold overpriced home decor. I wasn't a simp. I was a partner holding on to the belief that the person I fell for was still in there. I paid the majority of the rent on our apartment and handled most of the bills, not because she couldn't, but because my income was more stable, and it allowed her the freedom to pursue her passions. That was the arrangement we made, and I was happy to do it. That was my mistake. I didn't realize she had started to see my support not as a partnership, but as a service. Which brings us to last night, my 35th birthday. Jenna had planned the whole thing. A dinner at a trendy, expensive restaurant downtown called Aperture. It was the kind of place with mood lighting so dim you could barely read the menu, where every plate is designed to be photographed. The guest list was small: me, Jenna, and her 2 loyal lieutenants, Ashley and Maya. From the moment we sat down, I felt less like the guest of honor and more like an accessory she was begrudgingly carrying. The 3 of them were a whirlwind of activity, taking selfies, adjusting their hair in the reflection of their butter knives, and staging photos of their cocktails. I just sat there, nursing a whiskey. The first real jab came when the appetizers arrived. Ashley slid a plate of oysters into the perfect lighting and snapped a dozen photos. "Jenna, you have to post these. The aesthetic is everything tonight." Jenna looked at me, then back at her friends, and laughed. It was a brittle, dismissive sound. "Oh, we're not posting anything with him in it tonight. Let's be honest." She looked directly at me and said the words that changed everything. "You're not exactly Instagram material, so don't expect any photos tonight." Ashley and Maya burst into laughter, high-pitched and cruel. It wasn't a joke, it was a judgment, a declaration. In their world of curated perfection, I was the flaw, the thing to be hidden. I just stared at her. The hurt was sharp, but something else was sharper: clarity. The fog of hope I'd been living in for 2 years vanished. I saw her and her friends for exactly who they were. I didn't say a word. I just gave a small, tight smile and took a sip of my whiskey. The old me would have been wounded. The new me, born in that exact moment, started making a plan. The rest of the dinner was a blur of their chatter. They talked about influencers I'd never heard of, trips they were planning, and how their online boutique was about to get a huge new client that would change everything. They spoke as if I wasn't even there. I just listened, nodding occasionally, my mind working like a machine, assembling pieces, calculating trajectories. Jenna must have mistaken my silence for submission. As the main courses were cleared, she patted my hand with a sickeningly sweet smile. "Don't be so sensitive, babe. You know I'm just teasing. We'll get a photo of you with your cake." "Of course," I said, my voice even. I wouldn't miss it. The waiter came over. "Will we be having dessert this evening?" Before I could speak, Jenna cut in. "Oh, that's all been taken care of. We have a special cake being delivered." She winked at Ashley and Maya, who giggled in anticipation. They thought they were in complete control of the evening's narrative. We waited. 10 minutes later, I saw movement near the restaurant's entrance. The manager was personally escorting someone through the dining room. Jenna, Ashley, and Maya all sat up straighter, phones at the ready, expecting some pastry chef with a fancy box. But it wasn't a pastry chef. It was a woman named Isabella Rossi. To understand the significance, you have to understand who Isabella is in our city. She's a legend. She started with a single, tiny Italian restaurant 2 decades ago and built it into a culinary empire. She's respected, she's powerful, and she's known for not suffering fools. She is, in the world of Ashley and Maya, the ultimate status symbol. She walked towards our table carrying a simple, elegant cake. She wasn't dressed like a delivery person. She was dressed in a sharp, tailored suit, looking like she owned the place, which in a way, she did. Her reputation owned every restaurant in this city. Jenna's jaw went slack. Ashley and Maya looked like they'd seen a ghost. They were fumbling for their phones, but also frozen in shock. Isabella arrived at our table and placed the cake directly in front of me. She ignored the 3 women completely. She smiled a warm, genuine smile at me and said, "Happy birthday, partner. Sorry I'm late. The final permits for the new venue came through. We're officially greenlit." She placed a hand on my shoulder. I couldn't let my investor celebrate his 35th without the best tiramisu in the city. The entire table went silent. A deep, profound silence that sucked all the air out of the room. Jenna's face had gone from smug to confused to utterly horrified in the span of about 10 seconds. She was staring at me, her mouth slightly open. Ashley and Maya were looking back and forth between me, Jenna, and Isabella, their brains visibly short-circuiting. I looked at Jenna, the fake smile gone from my face, replaced by a calm I hadn't felt in years. I picked up my fork, cut a piece of the cake, and said, "Jenna, you remember my silent partner, Isabella, don't you?" I'm sure I've mentioned her. I hadn't, of course. For the past year, I had been quietly investing in Isabella's new flagship restaurant, a project that was the talk of the town. I wasn't just some silent money man. I was a strategic partner, handling the logistics and property side of the deal. It was my biggest venture, and I had kept it completely to myself. Jenna just stared, speechless. The woman who had just declared me not Instagram material was now sitting across from the most photographed and respected restaurateur in the state, who had just called me her partner. The irony was so thick you could taste it, and it was sweeter than any cake. Update 1. The silence at that dinner table was the most satisfying sound I have ever heard. Jenna, Ashley, and Maya just sat there, paralyzed. Isabella, a true professional, didn't linger. She wished me a happy birthday one more time, gave me a knowing look that said we'll talk later, and walked away, leaving a crater in the middle of our table. Jenna finally found her voice, a weak, stammering whisper. "Partner? Investor? What is she talking about?" "Isabella and I have been working on her new restaurant for the last year," I said calmly, taking another bite of the tiramisu. It was, as promised, the best I'd ever had. I handled the site acquisition and the build-out. It's a business venture I've been very excited about. Ashley and Maya were staring at me like I had grown a second head. The disdain they usually wore was gone, replaced by a frantic, confused respect. Suddenly, the boring guy who wasn't Instagram material was a player in their world of status and connections. The car ride home was a masterclass in awkward silence. Jenna kept trying to start a conversation, her voice unnaturally high. "I just don't understand why you wouldn't tell me about something so huge. We're supposed to be a team." "You seemed pretty busy focusing on our brand," I replied, not taking my eyes off the road. "I didn't want to bother you with the details." The moment we walked into our apartment, the facade crumbled. "What was that, Mark?" she demanded. "You brought Isabella Rossi to my dinner to humiliate me?" "It was my birthday dinner, Jenna," I corrected her. "And I didn't bring her. She came as a friend, as a partner. The fact that you were humiliated by that says more about you than it does about me." She didn't have an answer for that. She just stood there, watching as I went into the spare room and closed the door. I slept on the pull-out couch that night. The next morning, I was up before she was. I made my coffee, got dressed, and left. Before I walked out, I placed a single, freshly printed document on the kitchen counter where she'd be sure to see it. A 60-day notice to vacate the premises. The apartment was mine. I'd signed the lease long before she moved in, and she was never officially added to it. Legally, she was a tenant, and I was her landlord. It was a cold, brutal move, but her comment at dinner had shown me that our relationship was just a transaction. I was simply ending the business arrangement. My phone started blowing up around 9 a.m. a string of frantic texts. What is this? You can't be serious? You're kicking me out? After everything, I didn't reply. Instead, I called a company that specializes in high-end home staging and liquidation. I explained the situation. I had an apartment full of furniture and decor I wanted gone, professionally cleared and prepared for sale by the end of the day. They assured me it was a rush job, but for the right price, it could be done. I told them the price was no object. While Jenna was at work trying to process the eviction notice, a team of 6 professionals descended on our apartment. They worked with quiet, ruthless efficiency. Every throw pillow, every scented candle, every piece of beige furniture that Jenna and her friends had spent months curating for their aesthetic was wrapped, boxed, and removed. They cleared out her closets, packing her clothes into wardrobe boxes. They took everything that wasn't a personal keepsake of mine. When they were finished, the apartment was empty, echoing and sterile. It was a blank canvas. Then the staging company I'd hired came in. They brought in sleek, modern furniture, bold art, and professional lighting. By 4 p.m., the apartment didn't look like our home anymore. It looked like a feature in an architectural magazine. It looked expensive, tasteful, and masculine. It looked like a place a successful investor would live. At 4:30 p.m., I sent Jenna a single text message. Your belongings have been packed and placed in a secure, climate-controlled storage unit. Here is the address and the key code. You have 30 days of prepaid access. I then called a real estate agent, a contact I'd made through the restaurant deal, and told her I had a prime downtown apartment, newly staged, that I wanted to list for lease at a premium price. She was thrilled and promised to have the listing up by the next morning. The real genius of the plan, however, was yet to unfold. Remember that huge new client Ashley and Maya were so excited about? The one that was going to change everything for their little online boutique? I knew who it was. Jenna had let the name slip a few weeks ago, the Beaumont Hotel Group. They were launching a new line of luxury residences and wanted a local boutique to handle their welcome kits and staging decor. It was a massive reputation-making contract. What Jenna, Ashley, and Maya didn't know was that I had a connection to the Beaumont Group. The head of their new development, a guy named Arthur Vance, was a casual acquaintance. We'd met through a mutual contact in the construction industry. He was old school, a man who valued integrity and professionalism above all else. He had no patience for the superficial world of influencers. I sent Arthur a simple email. Arthur, hope you're well. A quick, informal heads up. I heard you're considering working with a boutique called Modern Nest for the new residences. My soon-to-be ex-girlfriend is a co-owner. I can't speak to their business practices, but I can tell you that their personal conduct and judgment are, in my opinion, severely lacking. Just thought you should know. All the best, Mark. It was subtle. I wasn't making accusations. I was just planting a seed of doubt from a credible source. Arthur was a man who trusted his gut, and he trusted the people in his network. An email like that from someone he respected would be more than enough to make him reconsider. I knew he would do his own digging, and when he did, he wouldn't like the shallow, unprofessional social media presence of Jenna, Ashley, and Maya. I got home to my newly staged empty apartment around 6 p.m. It felt peaceful. I poured myself a whiskey and sat on a leather couch I'd never seen before. An hour later, my video doorbell chimed. It was Jenna. Her face on the screen was a mask of fury and disbelief. I let her buzz for a full minute before I answered. Mark, what happened? Where's all our stuff? The key you gave me is for a storage unit. I thought it was a joke. It's not a joke, Jenna, I said, my voice calm through the speaker. I'm redecorating. Your things are safe. You have 30 days to collect them. You can't do this. This is my home, she screamed, her voice cracking. Read the lease, I said, and the notice I left you this morning. Then I disconnected the call and turned off the notifications. Phase 1 was complete. The foundation of the life she thought she had was gone. Now it was time to watch the rest of it crumble. Update 2. The 2 days following what I now call the Great Clearing were a storm of digital rage. Jenna, blocked from my phone, resorted to email and messaging apps I rarely used. The messages were a predictable cocktail of fury, disbelief, and threats. She accused me of being cruel, of being a monster. She threatened to call the police, which I knew was an empty threat. She threatened to sue me, another bluff. I didn't respond to a single one. Silence was my most powerful weapon. Her friends Ashley and Maya tried a different tactic. They launched a smear campaign on social media. There were vague, tear-filled posts about betrayal from those you trust most and how some men can't handle a strong, successful woman. They didn't use my name, but the implication was clear. Their followers, a small army of online sympathizers, lapped it up, leaving comments about how Jenna deserved better and that she was better off without my negative energy. It was annoying, but I knew it was the desperate act of people who were losing control. The real blowback came on the third day. I received an email from Jenna. It was different from the others. It was cold, formal, and clearly written by someone with legal knowledge. It demanded I cease all contact, return her half of the apartment's contents, and provide financial support for the lifestyle she had become accustomed to. It ended with the line, "My lawyer will be in contact to discuss the division of our shared assets, including your recent business ventures." She was coming after the restaurant deal. She thought that because we were in a long-term relationship, she was entitled to a piece of my success. This was the move I had been waiting for. This was where she would truly overplay her hand. I forwarded the email to my own lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman who had helped me structure the investment with Isabella. Her reply was swift and confident. "Let her try. The investment was made from a private trust you established 5 years ago, using funds you held prior to your relationship. She has no claim. This is an intimidation tactic. Do not respond." Meanwhile, my seed of doubt with Arthur Vance at the Beaumont Hotel Group had begun to sprout. I got a call from him that afternoon. "Mark," he said, his voice a low grumble. "Arthur Vance here. I got your email. I appreciate the heads up. I looked into that little boutique you mentioned." He paused. "You were being diplomatic. Their entire online presence is a circus of unprofessionalism. Not the kind of people we want associated with the Beaumont brand. We're terminating our preliminary discussions." "I'm sorry to hear it didn't work out," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Don't be," Arthur grunted. "You saved me a headache. We owe you one. Let me know if you need anything on the new restaurant project." The news must have hit their camp like a bomb. Around 5 p.m., I got a frantic voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. It was Ashley. Her voice was a hysterical shriek. "Mark, you have to call them back. You have to fix this. The Beaumont contract is gone. They just sent us an email, a one-sentence email ending the deal. This was everything for us. You did this. I know you did." I saved the voicemail. It was a beautiful piece of evidence, a clear admission that they believed I had the power to influence major business deals, a direct contradiction to the unsuccessful boyfriend narrative they had been pushing. That evening, the smear campaign on social media escalated from vague posts to direct, though clumsy, attacks. Maya posted a long story about a friend who was being financially abused by her controlling ex who was trying to ruin her career because he was jealous of her success. The comments were vicious. People who didn't know me at all were calling me every name in the book. This was also part of the plan. I had been waiting for them to cross a line, to make specific, defamatory statements. My lawyer had advised me to just let them build the case for me. The final piece of this phase fell into place the next morning. The real estate agent called. She had already hosted 3 showings at the apartment. One of them, a wealthy executive who had just relocated to the city, had made an offer on the spot. He wanted to lease it for 2 years, fully furnished with the new staging, at a price 20% higher than I had been asking. He was willing to pay the first 6 months up front. I accepted immediately. The apartment was officially off the market. With the contract signed, I finally broke my silence with Jenna. I sent her a single, consolidated email. "Jenna, attached you will find a copy of the new lease agreement for the apartment. As you can see, it is no longer available. Your 30-day window to retrieve your belongings from the storage unit remains in effect. You will also find a letter from my attorney. It addresses the baseless claims to my personal assets, all of which are legally protected from any claim you might make. The letter also serves as a formal cease and desist notice regarding the ongoing, defamatory social media campaign being waged by you and your associates. We have documented every post, every story, and every comment. If this harassment does not stop immediately, we will pursue legal action for defamation and seek damages. Finally, I have attached a detailed invoice. It covers the cost of the professional packing and storage of your items, as well as the full cost of the birthday dinner at Aperture, which was charged to my credit card. I expect payment within 15 days. This will be my final communication with you. Any further correspondence must go through my lawyer. Mark. I hit send and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had been calm, logical, and had used the system they respected, the system of money, lawyers, and contracts, against them. They had tried to fight a war of emotion and public opinion. I had fought a war of logistics and legal fact. And I had won. I knew it wasn't over. Her pride was wounded, and she would likely lash out again. But I had taken away her home, her perceived claim to my success, and the business deal that was supposed to be her ticket to the next level. She was cornered, and I was in complete control. Final update. The aftermath of my email was exactly what you'd expect, a complete and total meltdown. But this time, it was a meltdown in a vacuum. She had no way to reach me. Her friends' social media accounts went quiet. The vague, angry posts replaced by an eerie silence. The cease and desist letter had clearly worked. The threat of a real lawsuit with real financial consequences had scared them straight. About a week later, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Jenna had a screaming match with Ashley and Maya. She blamed them for everything. She blamed them for filling her head with nonsense about status and appearances, for pushing her to see me as inadequate, and for encouraging the disastrous social media campaign. Their little trio, once inseparable, had fractured under the first sign of real pressure. Their friendship, it turned out, was as superficial as their Instagram feeds. Jenna's attempt to fight me legally went nowhere. Her lawyer, after receiving the detailed breakdown of my finances and the legal structure of my investments from my attorney, must have advised her that she had no case. I never heard from him again. The entitlement she felt to my success crashed against the hard wall of legal reality. The invoice I sent her became a major point of contention. She refused to pay it, of course. So after 15 days, my lawyer simply filed a claim in small claims court. It was a minor amount of money, but it was about the principle. She was served with a court summons at the apartment she was temporarily crashing at with Ashley. The humiliation of that, I'm told, was profound. Faced with an actual court date, she finally paid the full amount. The biggest consequence for her, however, was the loss of the life she had taken for granted. She was homeless, sleeping on a friend's couch. Her grand business plan with the Beaumont Group was in ashes, and she had alienated the one person who had provided the stable foundation upon which she had built her entire curated world. I heard that she tried to get back into the social scene, but the story of what happened had started to circulate. Not the one she and her friends had tried to spin, but the real one. People in our city's business and social circles talk. Isabella Rossi, when asked, would simply say that I was a brilliant and loyal partner, and that it was a shame my ex-girlfriend couldn't see it. That simple endorsement from a woman of her stature was enough to cement my reputation and completely dismantle Jenna's victim narrative. Ashley and Maya's online boutique has struggled immensely since losing the Beaumont contract. That deal was supposed to be their launchpad. Without it, they are just another small, forgettable online store. Their friendship with Jenna is reportedly over for good. They now see her as the liability who cost them their one big shot. About 2 months after my birthday, I was having dinner at one of Isabella's other restaurants. I was sitting at the bar when a woman approached me. It was one of Jenna's other friends, someone who was on the periphery of her main circle. She looked hesitant. "Mark?" she asked. I just wanted to say, I heard what happened, and I'm not surprised. The way she and Ashley and Maya talked about you when you weren't around, it was awful. You did the right thing. That, more than anything, felt like validation. As for me, life has never been better. The new restaurant I partnered on with Isabella opened 6 weeks ago to rave reviews. It's the hottest ticket in town. My investment has already paid off handsomely. The apartment is leased, and the extra income is just a bonus. I've been focusing on my work, my health, and reconnecting with friends I had neglected while I was trying to keep Jenna happy. I learned a valuable lesson. A partnership has to be built on mutual respect. The moment one person starts seeing the other as an accessory, or a stepping stone, or worse, as not Instagram material, the foundation is cracked beyond repair. I didn't set out to be a mastermind of revenge. I simply decided to stop being the quiet, accommodating guy and start being the man who built his own success. I took her insults and her disrespect, and I used them as fuel. She wanted a life that looked good in photos. She ended up with nothing worth capturing. I, on the other hand, Stopped worrying about what my life looked like to others, and started building one that felt good to me. And that's a victory no social media filter can ever replicate.